you gotta be strong.
Ngủ điện thoại.
Hả? Cậu giùm anh nè. Cậu
Hello bà. Hi. Bà lấy ice cream được không?
dạ về nhà lấy.
Đâu?
Okay, everybody, you guys are set? Ready for the trip? Okay, welcome Seattle. So now we have a tour go around Seattle, alright? Giống MC không? Bị đuổi mấy lần rồi. Thành ra cũng hơi chút kinh nghiệm.
Giống Nguyễn Ngọc Ngọt á.
Ngọt ngọt ha.
Ngọt ngọt á.
Không, anh em ngồi chung với anh với con thôi. Không, anh em ngồi chung.
Why don't we do stand?
Cái đoàn mình đông thiệt ta. Còn chưa nè, tưởng mày xong rồi chứ.
Có mình thịt bà.
Ở xíu mại nữa.
Mà không biết có bán phở mày.
Coi ăn bánh mì gì, con ăn xíu mại hay là pate? Ăn bánh mì gì? Ok.
Có ớt không?
Thì cho mày tê 3 lần luôn.
Rồi nhớ lấy đồ chua mà không lấy ớt.
Tao cho nó tê 3 lần luôn. 3 tê.
3, 1.
2.
I can't see you back there. There you go. Right there. 1, 2, and you guys have a great cruise. You're on the 3.
Thì 6 sẵn rồi sợ gì không biết nữa.
Trên cái này nó kèo đó.
Có người của nó chứ phải không? Nhỏ đen với thằng ngồi cuối.
Ngay chỗ mình đi là phía dưới đây tự mình chèo luôn.
Trời. Mẹ.
Nhưng mà nó sợ kêu đó là nói gì thôi, kêu nó đổi ý kiến luôn. Biết phân mà.
Phân.
Thẳng lên, đứng thẳng lên. Rồi.
Safety. Good Time 3 is fully licensed and annually inspected by the United States Coast Guard. We're licensed to carry 397 passengers. Therefore, we are more than well equipped. For all 115 of you today, you'll find our life jackets on the first deck. Just above you, the ceiling tabs clearly marked and labeled. You'll find additional locker life jackets on the second deck. And although you're not foreseeing any of will need these life jackets, we do ask you to just watch your step. It is a very busy 4th of July given the weather conditions, so we can walk around quite a bit on Penny Sound. So always have a hand for catch the ball. Please do not sit on the back of the please. 1, 2, 3. That means you're officially away.
Wooden boats to be enjoyed and explored by all here at the Wooden Boat Festival at the south end of Lake Union. Beautiful. So, all things considered, you're on a boat. It's a beautiful day. You're in a beautiful city. It's a beautiful time of year. So, we're very grateful for that. Those of us who call Seattle home, so welcome. As I mentioned, this is Lake Union. And the name Lake Union, it was not always called Lake Union. It was actually originally called Tenaschuck, which means little waters in the Native American tongue. So the name Lake Union actually comes by way of a man named Thomas Mercer. He gave a speech at a picnic on July 4th, coincidentally, in 1854. He called this lake Lake Union. He had a prediction. His prediction was that Lake Union would one day become the union of Lake Washington to our east and the Puget Sound to our west. And so that's true. That actually ended up being the case. Lake Union is the union of those two things. And our trip today, our voyage, will take us along the western portion of the Lake Washington Ship Canal, with our terminus being in the Puget Sound and ultimately downtown Seattle. Thomas Mercer also attributed the name Lake Washington to Lake Washington. So this was Tenaschuck, which meant little waters. Lake Washington was the bigger of the two, the bigger waters, and he named Lake Washington. He attributed the name Lake Washington after our first president, George Washington. So a very patriotic theme all around here on the waterway. As you can see, tremendously crowded off to our left. Boats galore. I can assure you this is not a common sight for us here, but the fireworks display that will be going on later this evening is very impressive. It's a very impressive show, an impressive celebration. So these boats are staking their space here on the water. Considered a nice place to live. They were floating ghettos. This whole region was a floating ghetto. But eventually, the city stepped in and put a cap and put a limit on these floating homes at about 500. And some efforts were put in place to make the waterways pristine and beautify them. So after these homes were updated, after the number was cut down a little bit, and after Seattle grew tremendously as an economic and industrial force in the Northwest, these homes rose in value and have a median home value of about $1.6 million. So certainly very expensive, but the view, as you can see off behind us, is just fantastic. It's beautiful. I really cannot overstate that. So we will see many beautiful views of the city. So.
Được mấy ngày sang ghê, mấy nhà này nhà nhỏ mà floating nha. Xếp ở quê.
So off to our left here, coming up, this is special. I don't know. So if you all will be sticking around to see that, they'll be launching right off of here. So as you can see, as you can see, these boats all parked behind us. They just have an incredible view. These floating homes, downtown Seattle. the spectacle is going to be just amazing. So, but this is the fireworks barge. So if you had seen it or sure what it was, this is what we'll be providing us with entertainment this evening. Of our beautiful city. So certainly the floating homes on the other side of the lake, I said maybe some of you would be familiar with these floating homes from pop culture. Maybe you've seen them somewhere, just don't know where. So I'd like to maybe seed this idea into your mind. It was a movie set in Seattle starring Tom Hanks, where these floating homes... Seattle. Yes, that is correct. Sleepless in Seattle is where these floating homes really became famous. So coming up on our right here, a National Geographic of pop culture moment. And if you're into that sort of thing, is the Sleepless in Seattle home. So just off the right-hand side of the boat, you kind of see that smoke in the water, that orange house with the American flag. But just to the left of that house, that green home where that little boat is just now passing in front of, that is the home used in the exterior shots of Sleepless in Seattle. So it has some of those hanging flower plants, the black slanted roof with moss on it, the sailboat docked nicely at its dock there. So this is the home. This is the home that you might have seen in the movie. But the reason why I say the exterior shots is that the interior shots were actually filmed on a soundstage at Sandpoint Naval Observatory, which is just north of here. So actually, a little bit interesting bit of trivia. The filming of Sleepless in Seattle, the producers chose Seattle because of the dreary, usually cloudy atmosphere. So it was shot in the springtime in 1994, and the spring can sometimes seem a little bit like winter here. It's dreary, it's cold, it's rainy. So they were hoping to capture that ambiance. But during the filming of the movie, we were mired in an unseasonably warm heat wave. So believe it or not, when they came to film this movie, it was clear skies, about 80 degrees, sort of what it is right now, you know, it was a beautiful day. And so they had a dilemma on their hands. What do we do to create this atmosphere of rain and dreariness? So what they did is they hired a fireboat, a local fireboat, to suck water up and rain it down on top of the Sleepless in Seattle building. So that's what they did, and it worked. The effect was made, some movie magic happened, and to our knowledge, those producers are the only people to have paid for rain in Seattle. So we always get a kick out of that. But there's the home for those of you who enjoyed that movie. Our captain is spinning us around a little bit. We do like to give everyone a chance to see that. Our usual path has been kind of blocked off by this barge here, but she is directing us towards the George Washington Memorial Bridge and towards our exit out of Lake Union into the western arm of the Lake Washington Ship Canal. Ultimately downtown into Elliott Bay, you'll see a lot of large ships, even that barge used for the fireworks. Cruise ships, large cargo ships, they all need the assistance of these tugboats. So you will see quite a bit of them. The tugboats help these massive ships navigate the sometimes crowded and cramped canals and channels that they have to make their way to on their way to their various destinations throughout the city. So off on our left too, our last glimpse of some of these floating homes. So if you did not get a chance, we will see some houseboats later on. Houseboats are very different though. Houseboats have onboard engines that can sort of propel them to and fro. We'll see marinas, so any public marina that you can dock a boat at, you can also dock a houseboat at. But these floating homes remain stationary, so that's not quite possible. So we just passed under this bridge. We are now no longer officially in the Lake Union. But the next bridge we're about to pass under, as you can see, we passed under this one with relative ease. But this next bridge only has 30 feet of clearance. And the boat we're on, the Good Time 3, is 29.5 feet tall. So we actually have to put our antennas and our flag mast down. And so as we go under this right now, look at the top of the wheelhouse where the captain drives from. And it's a very close call, and we squeeze under with just a bit of clearance. So it's always fun to observe that if the bridge is down.
cậu nữa nè. Wow, very close.
Wow. What happened when they get the high tide? What happened when they get the high tide?
Great question. I was just asked what happens during high tide. The answer to that is, since this is freshwater, the tides aren't as much of an issue. And also, when we get to the locks later on, there's a spillway dam in Fremont. We've entered the Fremont Cut. As you can tell by these concrete retaining walls on either side, this is man-made. But very briefly, off to our right, a little bit of industry of Fremont. If you look up on that building, you can see the Google letters. So some Google lettering up there on that building, coming just off of our right near the stern. And so that is actually the Northwest satellite campus for Google. And also Adobe Software, Getty Images, and a number of other businesses call Fremont home. So the bridge is raising, the Fremont Bridge is opening off to our back. So if you do catch a glimpse of that, it's always a special treat.
All the sailboats coming in.
Because of the
So this is the Fremont Cut. The Fremont Cut is a man-made cut through the neighborhood of Fremont. So off to our right is the neighborhood of Fremont. It's a thriving area of creativity, culture, and vibrant energy for many residents of Seattle. So Fremont actually does quite a bit of interesting things. June 21st was the summer solstice. It was the longest day of the year. So during the summer solstice, there was a solstice parade in Fremont. So lots of fun, creative, new agey things, if you will, and creative artistic endeavors undertaken in these neighborhoods. For example, this building off to the right-hand side, this red brick building, that actually used to be a trolley barn. It was the Fremont Trolley Barn, but they converted it into a chocolate factory. So that is a chocolate factory, an organic and fair trade chocolate factory called Theo's Chocolate. So certainly check that out. It's just behind this big grass dinosaur that you see here. So it's a spunky neighborhood, a fun time if you get a chance to go to Fremont and sample some great chocolate. So we actually sell that on board if you don't get a chance to make that trip, but I certainly encourage you to.
The chocolate factory.
Developed in about the 1870s or so. So about 1960, a lot of pollution happened. And so the waterways were cleaned, they were purified. And so this collection of buildings, this campus off to our left here, this is the King County Environmental Laboratory. So these guys are the ones that stepped in and actually put in that man work, put in that effort to make these waterways clean and beautiful again. So in the event of emergencies, large-scale disasters, all this water that we're floating in, this is fresh water and can be used as drinking water, backup emergency drinking water supply, thanks entirely to the King County Environmental Laboratory. So we do like to point that out for those of you interested in that little aspect of our history. Tugboat company are two of these tugboat companies who have done a lot to really contribute their efforts to this maritime industry, for the cruising industry, for the cargo, the shipping cargo industry, and that sort of thing. Interestingly, Foss Maritime off to the left, this is important not only for the contributions to industry on the waterways, but because it was started by a woman named Thea Foss. So the floating docks, certainly very interesting. Also very interesting, coming up on our left, are our first glimpse of some of these houseboats I was talking about.
Oh yeah, there.
So off to our left with these flags flying, people waving, having a good time. These are some houseboats, so they look a tad similar, but there is a very big difference between them and the floating homes, and namely the engine.
Ni hemos llegado a la industria. No hemos ni llegado a la industria. Llegamos al otro lado, vas a ver. Al otro lado vas a ver ahí containers, los que vende Rubén. Y eso van hasta Japón, Rusia, China. Y ya está ahí.
Loading down.
So, you guys that was here recently, so perhaps we'll get a chance to see the wizard.
Lên câu giọng cổ đã mày.
Đừng có thêm chữ nào đằng sau hết đó nha.
So we'll see. So keep an eye on
Nghĩa là
that.
sao?
And also these boats that might look familiar to you.
Sao em?
Thiếu bia mới
Chắc vậy quá.
Chạy quá. Trời nắng xuống một cái bia cho nó mát.
Từ khi biến nhớ biên thương rồi yêu. Chết chung đâu biết cô cắm chiều.
Fuel style bridge. It has a steel mesh, a graded mesh. So as we go under, you're able to look up and maybe see the cars pass overhead. So there you have it, the third of the 4 bridges we're going to pass under. Off to our right here is the neighborhood of Ballard. Also, as a brief aside, I'd like to point out there are lots and lots of birds and wildlife, indigenous waterfowl, all that sort of stuff out today. So there's a lot of wildlife flying around and enjoying the weather, enjoying the bounty of life swimming in these waters beneath us. So keep an eye out for those. Seagulls, osprey, great blue herons, maybe even some bald eagles. They're always sort of hovering around in the skies above us, so certainly very interesting.
It's beautiful.
Of fishing boats. Fisherman's Terminal is basically a home away from home for a lot of the fishermen who operate out of Ballard in Alaskan fishing waters. So Ballard was originally its own city. It was founded in part as an effort to be a place, to be a gateway to Alaska for Scandinavians to come here and to fish in Alaska and utilize our location. Very substantial. And so these boats, as I mentioned, they operate in the Bering Strait, the Bering Sea, and then they come back here because this water, first of all, it's fresh, so it's a great place to store your boat, and also the water is calm. You know, after being out in the Bering Sea, getting tossed around by massive waves, being docked here is calmer and peaceful and a great place to replenish your supply. The Wizard. So for those of you who have seen the show Deadliest Catch, the Wizard is featured frequently in it. So feel free to snap a photo, enjoy that. We very rarely do have a good opportunity to see this boat so closely and so clearly. One thing that I commonly hear the way people react when they see these boats, they go, wow, these boats are pretty small. And to which I respond, yeah, they are pretty small. So when you, that was pretty bad, but so it gives a new profound respect, is what I'm trying to get at. A profound respect for these guys, for their job. So these boats, not that large and not much larger, about a similar size to the boat we're on. So when you see them crashing through these waves in the Bering Sea, kind of getting tossed around, and then you see how big the boat really is, definitely makes you respectful. So that being said, I'm actually going to hop off the mic here. We're approaching the highlight of our tour, the Ballard Lock, so I have to tie the boat up to the floating dock. Feel free to pop over and see me do that. The deckhand duties. So our captain will be on the mic to explain that process, and I'll be back shortly when we reach the salt water. So thank you and enjoy her wise words about the Hiram Chittenden locks.
How many times did I tell you that?
Well, thank you, Bobby. Hope you enjoyed the smell of the sea there. Everybody has testified that float, the barge, these logs, and all the debris here is all collected by the Army Corps of Engineers as a service, and sometimes it smells wonderful. You can see all the extra bits of seaweed, mussels. Those are all newly collected by the Army Corps. And just directly ahead of us, you can see to our right side, you can see one of our other Argosy vessels, the flagship of our fleet. We've got 12 vessels in Argosy's fleet, and that folks outside join us.
And the locks at the same time.
Thanks so much, Jack. Really appreciate it. All right.
Hay là nó lấy tiền khác.
Chỗ rồi chứa. Ở đây làm ăn đâu phải giống như Việt Nam muốn chứa nhân viên cho mồi. Thấy không?
All right, we're right about where we should be. Bobby's going to secure us to a floating wall here on the right side. The salt water has a higher density, a little bit of science. So when it sinks to the bottom, freshwater rises to the top, and at the base of the gate behind us, there's a concrete saltwater barrier. The ground is saltwater is the rock, so we can protect the freshwater ecosystem of Salmon Bay and Washington. It's incredibly important for salmon, as well as all of the other freshwater wildlife that is living on the freshwater
Em chưa? Xả hay em chưa? Xả nước hay hả?
And enjoy the walk. There's a lot of people walking over there to our far left side. You can see them disappearing underground. Where are they going? This mysterious walkway, and then suddenly they're gone. Where are they going? Now there's a beautiful park there to our right. That's planted 1935. Carl S. English. Great location for picnicking, especially in the next few days when the weather's going to be so nice. And it's one of the largest botanical gardens in the state of Washington as well. And they want a nice, relaxing walk through a beautiful appointed garden.
Cái cửa của nó dễ sợ thì.
Hả?
Cái cửa của
While we
nó.
focus on driving us through this very narrow channel, Bob, you'll back the microphone and blow you away. He's a much better tour guide than myself, and I really hope you're enjoying your time with us. It was my pleasure to drive you through the locks today. If you've never been through a locking system, this works an awful lot like the Panama Canal. There's force locks, same idea, same. Of course, if you have any questions about how the locks operate, my bartenders Trey and Catherine are also amazing tour
Nó
guides.
vô
They're always
cái Lake
happy
Washington
to
nó
draw
đẹp hơn nữa
pictures,
chưa?
give directions, and answer questions.
Cái Lake Washington
So
cái này
definitely sidle up to the bar and
hồi nãy cái lake ngoài này rồi cái lake view nhìn.
refresh
Cái lake này là Lake Washington. Lake này còn đẹp hơn nữa.
Bobby, over to you, my friend. Enjoy the second half of the tour, guys.
Cái cầu cũ kỹ.
Well, hello everyone. I'm back.
Welcome
I'm
back.
Tour guide. My name is Bobby, and welcome to the saltwater. This is great. This is actually that convergence of the salt and fresh water is
Cái này là saltwater.
spectacular because there's sort of like a buffet of life that goes on.
Ngược lại
So it's a great place to see birds and that sort of thing. So if you're not
thì
into
nó
those,
nói
that's
welcome to saltwater.
But this is the saltwater. This is Shoal Bay. We're about to enter
Để nước
Puget
biển
Sound.
nước biển thấp hơn nước hồ á.
The western edge of the ship canal. So we just traversed our way out here. We passed under the fourth bridge. Not quite sure if Captain Karen mentioned a little bit about it. The Burlington Northern County Bridge number 4, mostly used for train traffic, remains open until they're expecting a train to come. So this could be indicative that a train is about to pass. So.
Đổ cái kia thằng ai lụm. Trương, đi diễn viên người ta mày phải chung chứ vậy?
Ok, đúng rồi đó bị.
I just like to say, as we go out to the salt water,
3 cây hả? Ta tưởng mày có cây 2 thôi chứ.
it's definitely going to be a bit more
Cái
windy.
này giờ 3
So
cây luôn.
just be mindful of that. There's a lot of boat traffic, so it could be a bit choppy. So if you're holding a drink, that
Yeah.
just be aware.
Wow. Wow.
Này mình đào cái chỗ chiếu này á, mà gì á. Nếu mà tới cái chỗ mà cái waterfront mà nãy mình lấy vé.
Là hồi xưa đi đó đi vô, còn giờ đi ngược lại hả?
Place to go eat to sample some local fare. To which my response more often than not is always great. So we We've actually heard people.
Nhưng mà khi mình zoom mà không có chân á,
reviewers of
rung dữ lắm.
restaurants suggest that going to Seattle
Zoom là có chân xài remote.
is like going to Paris and not seeing the Eiffel
Có lúc đó mình thấy
So
chơi vậy
Reagan
thôi.
is a great place to check out, sample some copperhead, salmon, maybe.
Chứ một tay
That's your sort of
rung
thing.
lắm.
They have some northwestern.
Tao giày là đâu thôi nha nè. Giày đâu vậy mà cũng bị rung á.
Nhưng mà này nó chống rung mà.
Gì?
Nó chống rung mà.
Nhưng mà nó chống tao cho quay thử tao coi nó cũng có à. Không ít thì nhiều rồi. Ô tô.
Này ra biển rồi hả ta?
Này là nước mặn.
So as I mentioned, this is Shill Shoal Bay, this area that we're in up until the end of these channel markers. You see the red and green channel markers off either side occasionally. But it's actually not the case. Seattle's more of a cloudy city. So if we look at the statistics of rainiest cities in America, if we look at the rainiest city in terms of annual inches of precipitation, Seattle is not even in the top 10 rainiest cities in the country. So it's not even in the top 10 or 20, 30, 40, or 50. It's actually the 55th rainiest city in the country with about 34 inches annually of precipitation. So places like Miami, Florida, Dallas, Texas, get far more inches of rain, about 64 inches last year on average for some of those in the top 10. So not as rainy as you might think, but it is a very cloudy place. Seattle's exceptionally cloudy. If you look off into the distance here on the head of the boat, you'll see these mountains. We don't always get to see these mountains. These are the Olympic Mountains, the Olympic mountain range that lies to the west.
Mình đã hôm qua mình đi khu đó, Olympic Range.
So the Olympic mountain range basically wrapping around. Off to our left is the Cascade Mountain Range. So we will hopefully see those erupt triumphantly above the horizon as we move past Discovery Park. But these mountain ranges, what effectively happens with these mountain ranges is that they create this weird sort of buffer zone. You have one big mountain range on the west, one on the east. Seattle lies precariously in the middle with tons of water. So there's a lot of lake effect winds and clouds that form that are essentially trapped in between those ranges. They can't escape, which contributes to the cloudy nature of our city. So that's where the clouds come from. That's a little bit of the climatology. Also, Mount Rainier is full of glaciers. So there's super cold ice, glaciers, ice formations, and so when these
Hello, hai mẹ con.
So I would like to point out something off to our left here.
Hello.
This sort of undeveloped green.
Is it me you're looking for?
This is Discovery Park.
Biết bài đó không con?
Discovery Park is a 500-acre park in the city of Seattle. Here in the Northwest, we're very well known for parks and recreation and outdoor life, that sort of thing. And so Discovery Park is an opportunity to indulge in our desires to be out in the wilderness while still being close to home.
Bạn đi xa chút nó biết đường cái dạng bạn đi đường giữa
Nó có GPS.
có GPS
It was land owned by the city of Seattle that was donated to the federal government at the end of the 19th century to be used as a military outpost. The federal government turned that into Fort Locke. So Discovery Park was a military base called Fort Locke. Taking a picture, we will be heading in that direction. So if you don't get a great shot, we will be getting closer to snap a good photo of Mount Rainier with our sister vessel, the Good Time 2 in the foreground. So Mount Rainier, one of the tallest peaks in the 48th continental United States. It's about 14,411 feet tall. So the north face of Mount Rainier is actually, it's very rough, it's very rugged, and people hike the north face of Mount Rainier to train for Mount Everest. So it's pretty impressive. So to put things in perspective, people climbing that mountain right there, which is actually a dormant volcano, they're training to climb Mount Everest, which is the tallest mountain in the world. So very impressive. But we have Mount Rainier in the background, and also closer to us. Also closer to us, off the point of Discovery Park here, is the West Point Lighthouse Tower. So you can get a shot of that with your camera. The West Point Lighthouse Tower, which is the oldest lighthouse on the Puget Sound, with Mount Rainier in the background. It's definitely going to be a 1 in a million shot. So the West Point Lighthouse Tower is the shortest lighthouse and the oldest lighthouse on the Puget Sound. It's about 27 feet tall. And if you look all around us, there's pretty much lands in all directions. So these lines of sight for the lighthouses really don't have to be as dramatic or extreme. So it's quite a bit shorter than what you might envision a lighthouse to be. So it sits on the western point of Seattle here, the western tip of Discovery Park, and it's still operational. It's controlled remote.
Mày đi chưa cậu? Lần thứ nhì tôi tới đây mà.
Lần đầu tiên đám cưới nó đâu có đi đâu mùa đông, tuyết đổ đùng đùng. Đám cưới anh Thành xong mà bay xuống Phan Phan đâu ở đây đâu, đó đi ta đi theo nó luôn.
Left here, close to the shore, there's a big boulder with a green sign on it, and that's 4 Mile Rock. And 4 Mile Rock, in addition to other fascinating things about it, which I'll elaborate on in a moment, it's the quote boundary marker between Houston and LA Bay. So as we cross the threshold of the 4 Mile Rock, we go up.
Có rồi gì nữa?
Nhưng mà từ góc độ khác.
Closer.
Anh nói mình nhìn từ bên kia kìa chưa? Trời ơi, nhìn từ bên kia. Giờ đang chạy vô eo biển.
Nhớ nha, nhớ leo rẹt cao chút cho cậu. Leo chút xíu nữa cậu. Thôi giờ nó là sau rồi.
Mà thấy nào? Nổi rồi. Gì hết nổi rồi.
Sắp bể ấm kiến rồi hả?
Exposition of music so was built by Microsoft after the Space Needle was built, so in the last 50 years. So all this development is very recent. The tallest building, I was just asked, which one is the tallest building? So if you look to the left of the Elsie Swift Tower, there's sort of a big black monolith, a big black tall building, and that's the Columbia Center Tower, and that is currently the tallest building in the Seattle skyline. So it was.
Dược viên cuối cùng đã tới được đảo. Sao dược viên có gặp hải tặc không?
Không được sao.
Cô Chiêu đang năn nỉ con để ra chụp hình nghệ thuật. Này nghệ thuật hay nghệ gì đang biết.
Nè, Tôn Ngộ Không có người đâu.
Đừng nhìn ở đây. Xuống chụp á, cao quá là cái là mặt trời chói thẳng đúng không? Khi mình chụp á là như cái này thấy đen hết. Những cái phần này thấy sáng thì thành ra cái này là thấy cái mé cái khuôn mặt thôi chứ không thấy khuôn mặt. Không được. Thì đúng rồi, công số lấy thành ra cái mặt nó đen hết. Thì cái nền đấy.
Dương chiêu cái đau
canh chụp được rồi đó bạn.
mày chơi tao rồi.
Không có ông
Có đẹp không? Có đẹp không?
I'm sorry. I'll call Daddy. Hello.
Đang bị đau. Đấy không kìa. Đây nè.
Tôi mới thấy bình sữa của em thôi. Bình sữa của em để cầm đâu rồi?
Rồi được rồi, được rồi.
Rõ không biết. Con này bố bé rồi con. Này con cầm sữa xong bố bé con. Con có thấy không anh? Đó, con đứng lên nha, ghế này nè, đứng lên ghế này. Ghế. Con đứng lên. Con có thấy không? Con ngó kìa nè. Nè. Để sửa lúc nó con ngó kìa, con bắn cái bông kìa. Con không muốn đứng hả? Con mặc ok không? Có mạo kia không? Có mạo kia thì tới cũng chở sao?
Giờ đỡ lạnh chó, có người trắng cháo rồi đỡ rồi. Có người trắng chó đỡ chở rồi rồi bỏ cái mặc áo vô đi.
Con sợ bố bé chưa? Rồi. Ok. Bố kéo cái ghế này ra. Miếng này kệ, bố con xuống thế, bố kéo này ra đây.
Ghế lớn mày đâu?
Hả?
Ghế lớn mày đâu?
Ready?